Kenya's Gold.
A very good evening, viewers, and thank you so much for joining us on this very last day of this week, Friday the 7th of February, right here at Kenya's Gold, a show that serves as the home for all farmers and aspiring farmers as well. Now, have we had an incredible week so far? Oh yes, we have. From Monday, learning so much about the grafting of mangoes to get the hybrid varieties. Tuesday, we tackled that which is the staple food of Kenya, being maize. On Wednesday, we did introduce you to a new breed of cattle called Sahiwal, which is currently a hot cake. And on Thursday, being yesterday, we did focus on innovation and technology in the space of value addition. Now, as is the norm, we have cooked something great for you today right here on the program. Once again, a very good evening, viewers. Thank you so much for joining us from whichever part of the country that you are watching us from. My name is Violetta Ngina. So I'm alone in studio today, but you do not have to panic. That means Terer is out in the field. He's gone all the way to Narok to interact with some more Sahiwal farmers, and he will be back next week with a lot more from that agri-sector. Now, moving on to the agenda of the day. Fridays, as is the norm, we do focus on climate change, how it has affected agriculture. But on the other side of the coin, we look at how we can use climate change to create opportunities that can make agriculture sustainable. Now, today on the program, still under organic farming, which we started last week, we are going to be learning so much about the use of biological pesticides to do away with pests. Now, what biological substances can you use to make these biopesticides? How about we find out together in our Gold feature coming right up. Another farm visit, another interesting farm story. Now, continuing with our journey series on organic farming in Kenya. Previously, we made organic manure for our crops. Today, we do want to make organic foliar fertilizer for our crops as well. And to help us learn more about that, I will be making the foliar with Mr. Vincent and Meta. So Vincent, you're the one who's going to be talking to me as I look at what is happening.
Yes.
Please shed more light on what we're making right now.
So previously you made compost. Compost is the one that you add to the soil as you do your planting. But compost is a slow-acting soil amendment. So for you to boost your crop's growth most of the time, we use what we call a foliar application. So our foliar application is very simple, and under organic farming, we encourage the farmer to use materials that are available in the farm, make a liquid form of a manure that you can be able to use in the farm. So what we are making now is from materials that are available in the farm. We call this plant Tithonia, or Indian sunflower. It's a breed of sunflower. You can be able to look at it. Very large leaves, hairy leaves, very smooth. So you put this to decompose or rot in water. So that liquid is the one that you use. For example, what we are doing now, we chop them into small pieces so that we increase the surface area for microbial action, because it's a fermentation process.
Right.
So there are microbes in there that will enable this to rot in 15 days inside water, and then we turn that into a liquid form of manure.
Right. So Vincent, talk to me about this plant.
Yes.
Inaitwa Tithonia.
Yes.
Is it grown? Is it wild? Huwa inakuzwa kwa sababu ya kazi gani?
So Tithonia is a wild plant, but for the purposes of organic agriculture, we encourage farmers to grow it because it's very important. It's very rich in nitrogen, and this is what we use to make our plant tea, or sometimes we use it even for our compost.
Right.
Very rich in nitrogen, so it has a lot of advantages to the crops.
Right.
So it's usually a wild plant, but as you can see from the hedge behind us, we have grown it so that we can use for the sole purpose of the plant tea and the compost.
Right. So once we have our plant tea, can I use it on any crop in the farm, or it's for specific crops only?
Yes, the plant tea can be used on all crops and trees. So it's usually in a liquid form of amendment to the soil. So usually drench at the roots of every crop. For example, when you look at our kales, you can just pour at the bottom. So once we make the plant tea, we dilute it so that because it's very rich in nitrogen, it might what we call burn the crops. So we dilute it 2 parts so that we then apply it to the roots of plants and other crops.
Can you apply directly to the leaves?
You might apply to the leaves because again the plant is very bitter and it discourages any pests from eating the crops.
Vincent, for a farmer who doesn't have Tithonia, hana access to this particular plant,
yes.
What other options are you giving them that they can use for the same?
So we encourage the farmer to also use weeds that are available in the farm. Although the preference is on broad-leaved plants, but you can still use any other common weeds within the farm. Chop them into pieces, allow them to rot in water, then you'll be able to get something that you can use for your crops.
Right. Yes. Is it important to specify particular weeds just in case you end up picking something that is poisonous?
The process of decomposition will always or usually break down most of the active compounds in these weeds. So we can encourage the farmer to use any of the weeds that are available in the farm.
Right. Yes. How effective is this plant tea? Nikitumia kama mkulima. Unajua kuna wengi wamezoea sana kutumia you know the chemical ingredients. If I use them in the farm, am I guaranteed to get results?
Yes, you are guaranteed to get a result. We've been using it for some time. So you can always use this to boost, we call it a booster. So once your seedling comes up, you can use it to boost the growth, especially at the vegetative state when the plant is getting a lot of leaves. That's when you use it a lot.
How often should you spray it?
So normally we spray it around every 3 weeks during the vegetative state of the plant. But once the plant begins to flower and fruit, at that point you can reduce the usage of plant tea.
All right. Yes. So ulisema ikisha katakatwa hivi vile Meta amefanya, you're going to put it in.
Tunakata hivi. Then you get a bucket like this. So this depends on scale, on how much you want to make.
All right.
So the amount that you're going to use depends on scale. You can use a bigger drum if you have a bigger farm, but for the purposes of demonstration, you can use a bucket like this.
Right.
So you fill it to half the size of the bucket or the drum, then top the rest with water.
So Vincent, from your explanation, we are learning that this Tithonia is very rich in nitrogen, but we also have other macronutrients which our crops need. When I want to, satisfy the need for my crops for the different macronutrients besides nitrogen, what other crops can I use?
So other than using this plant tea, you can use rabbit urine. Rabbit urine is very nutritive, especially in other micro and macronutrients. So the sole purpose of this plant tea is to boost the plant during the vegetative state. And that is when the plant requires a lot of nitrogen for it to be able to grow. But you can also top this up with rabbit urine. You can top it up with vermicompost. Vermicompost is the product of worms that are able to break down organic matter into a form of a liquid.
Right. Yes. Na nikienda kuitumia kwa shamba, nafaa kuwa naitumia na kiwango gani so that I'm not using it in excess?
So I'm not going to give you a figure on how we are going to use this, but it depends on the concentration. Like I've told you, the best way to measure for the farmer, you probably don't have a scale at the farm, so you have fill whatever bucket you have, then top with water. Then that amount you dilute using another part of water. For example, if you have a liter of this solution, you'll mix with a liter of water.
Can you do it so that we understand?
Yes.
So hapa tuweke nusu.
Once you top up like this, you sprinkle some ash.
What is the purpose of this ash?
So the purpose of the ash, because the product that comes from this bucket will be a bit acidic.
Okay.
The purpose of the ash is to stabilize the pH of the material that you take to the farm, because we want our farm to be very near to neutral, not acidic, not alkaline. So we spread some ash on top here so that we make sure that the product that you get from the bucket does not affect the pH of the farm.
All right.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, that is okay.
Okay. And then, now that we have our bucket full, what is the next step?
The next step is to make sure that the nutrients do not escape to the atmosphere. So we tie it or close it tightly.
Okay.
So for our case, we're going to use a pepper and tie using a stitch tightly. So that we don't lose any of the minerals, because some of the minerals usually volatilize and go to the atmosphere.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you're storing it, what are the most favorable conditions to store it?
The most favorable conditions to store it is under a shade. Don't expose it to too much sunlight or to rain and such stuff. That will change the temperatures a lot, because the process of fermentation is driven by microorganisms that are inside these plants. So within 15 days, they will break all this material down into a form of a liquid. So that liquid is the one that you will sieve, dilute, and then use in the farm.
Right, so you have to make sure you sieve it.
You have to make sure that you sieve it, because if you're using a pump, then the particles might close the nozzles of the pump.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we see a sample of ready-made plant tea?
Yes, after 15 days, this is what it looks like. It's a liquid, so this one is packed. You can always pack for not more than 6 months. After you prepared it, you can keep it in the store, but for not more than 6 months. After 6 months, it's completely degraded.
Great.
So you can open. So as you can see, it's rich green in color. So that is the color of nitrogen. So this is what you use in your crops.
Great.
As tea.
Right.
Yes.
So what else do you make here when it comes to organic farming?
So other than plant tea, we also make what we call a concoction. A concoction is a mixture of many plants that we use to drive away the pests that attack our plants and diseases. So we can be able to show you some of the materials that we use in preparing our plant tea.
Sure.
So this is ready plant tea. This is the ready concoction, sorry. This is the ready concoction.
Inakufukuza pests.
Inakufukuza pests. So this
and I
was
can
just
use it on
prepared
any
today.
crop?
Again, you can use it on any crop. We call it a broad spectrum biopesticide. It's a biopesticide. So we use a bit of materials. It's a mixture of many materials. But the factors that we look for in these materials, we look for bitterness, na tunaangalia ile ukali. For example, one of the materials that we use is chilies, the common pilipili.
Any color? Red, green?
Mostly we prefer the red. It's hottest when it's red.
Hot. Okay.
So the effect of this mixture is that it drives away or repels most of the insect pests and also kills some of the microbes that cause diseases within our plants. For example, chilies are very effective against aphids. Aphids are a big problem to soft-leaved vegetables like kales, like spinach, like cabbages. So we use pilipili for that.
Right.
But so that we make sure that we eliminate all the pests or chase them away from the farm, repel them. We use a mixture of chili. We can use garlic. We can use onions. We can also use aloe. Aloe is very bitter. We have a lot of aloe. Aloe is very bitter. So again, the taste of all these plants discourages the pest from eating the plant.
So do you mix all those crops that you have just mentioned together, or you use either or?
You put them all together.
All together.
It's best if you put them all together, because you don't know what pests are coming to the farm. Under an organic farming setup, you are not using any pesticides. That means there is a wide mix of pests that are coming to the farm: caterpillars, worms, aphids, all of them. So that you can handle them, we use the broad spectrum concoction, and that's the mixture of all these things.
Right.
Chilies, neem, onions, garlic, aloe vera, all that you can mix, but it's not a requirement that you use all of them. So we encourage the farmer to use whatever they have in the farm.
Right.
So if you lack one or two of them, then you can use the ones that are available.
Do you crush them?
So you chop them into pieces and bring them to what you call a slow boil. You don't excessively boil them, because if you excessively boil them, you'll kill the active ingredients. So you mix them, you chop them into pieces, bring them to a slow boil. Then you can be able to use that and spray onto the leaves of the plants.
The slow boil is probably like how many minutes, hours?
Not hours, probably 20 to 30 minutes.
Right.
Yes. Once the water reaches boiling point, 5 minutes is enough for the water to extract the active ingredients from the components of the concoction.
Right.
Yes.
Thereafter, you sieve?
Of course, you're going to sieve because you're going to use a pump. So the sieving is just so that the pump is not blocked. And then you dilute again.
Right.
But this one you dilute to 5 times, because it's usually very concentrated. You dilute to 5 times, then you spray on your crop, especially in the morning or evening.
Right.
Yes.
So for the tea plant, you said I can store it, but not for more than 6 months.
Yes.
What about this concoction?
Because most of the plants will lose the active ingredient within a very short time, we prefer that you use it immediately you make it, or within 1 week.
Right.
Yes. If you store it beyond 1 week, it continues on getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and then it's very ineffective against the pests.
Again, the favorable conditions for storing our concoction?
Cool and dry.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so what an interesting feature, learning so much about organic farming. And this is what we made. Just in case unadhania hii ni juice, this is not juice. What we have here is our plant tea from Tithonia. And we have our concoction, which is an assortment of different crops like chilies, garlics, and it has been boiled with water in order to chase pests in our farm in an organic way. Remember, we're very keen on making sure that we push for organic farming, which in turn promotes sustainability in agriculture. It was quite very interesting to make the biopesticides with our farmers in Thika, and that's the best part about Kenya's Gold. We get to learn a lot on the ground, and we also take you with us so that you can learn as well. Now, remember, biopesticides do have a lot of benefits, including they are environmental friendly. Now, unlike chemical pesticides, these biopesticides do not pose dangers to the environment. Now, when you compare them to chemical pesticides, if they're swept away into the rivers, they do affect the aquatic life. They also reduce the quality of our soils, and also they reduce the fertility of our lands if they're overused over a long period of time. That is not the same case when you're using biopesticides. Also, they're cheaper because you can see when you're using biopesticides, we're making them from locally available materials. There we use Tithonia, other farmers will use chili, you can use garlic, other people use different barks of trees or weeds, and all those are substances that are locally and available in the natural space of a farmer. Also, they leave no residues. This has been one of the biggest challenges when using chemical pesticides, and if you understand what the international market is looking like, a lot of our exports are being rejected because of residues. A lot of people right now are leaning towards eating organic food for the purposes of a healthy lifestyle. So biopesticides leave no residues in your crops. Finally, they are not associated with greenhouse gases like methane. Now, we understand the release of greenhouse gases has been one of the major factors resulting into climate change, and by use of biopesticides, we get to tackle that solution. Now, these are part of the benefits that you as a farmer get when using biopesticides. But despite all these benefits, we still do have a lot of farmers who are still very hesitant about going 100% organic. Why is that the case? Well, on the other side of this break that we are about to take, we will be joined by two experts who will be shedding more light on the use of biopesticides and why our farmers are not 100% sold. So you do want to stick around for that conversation. And of course, before we take our break, we do have to tease our farm joke question of this last day of the week. And what we are asking you is, why did the tree need to take a nap? Why did the tree need to take a nap? Please feel free to send in your answers and also any question that you possibly have regarding organic farming and the use of biopesticides across all our social media platforms. On Instagram at Kenya's Gold, our SMS line is 22422 and our email is kenyasgold@royalmedia.co.ke. We do have two experts who are ready to answer your questions. See you after this break.